And welcome, everybody, to episode 50. Keegan, episode 50. That's like half a hundred. That's insane.
Yeah, nice math, John.
That is insane. Welcome, everybody, to episode 50 of the Regression to the Mean podcast. I am your host, Sean Moran. And do you hear it? Do you feel it? There's something in the air, Keegan. There's something going on. Is it NFL draft season? Like, I feel
It's
it in my
NFL draft
bones.
season. I can
Oh
I
my
can smell it
goodness.
in the air.
I'm like glued to Twitter, seeing what very large human beings are running in a straight line in a short
Yeah,
distance, and like very intrigued about that, and learning about players that are going to skyrocket up draft boards just because they can run really fast.
and they can jump
That's
really
pretty cool.
high. Today we were
we
seeing some massive human beings have 40-inch verticals. Always a sight.
Yeah. Did you see the video of the D end Nolan Smith, who I think he's named from Georgia? He kind of
Yep.
stole the day today. He had a really impressive day. They compared his 40-yard dash with DeAndre Hopkins and Stephon Diggs, and he ran a 4.39. Like it's like a 6'5", 220, 230 DM. That's absurd.
I know. During the combine, after those numbers were coming out today, I think it was Danny Kelly from The Ringer was like resurfacing some of his old tweets, and there were just highlights of him like getting off the ball around the corners, just beating offensive linemen left and right. Insane athlete.
See, that's what's fun about the combine is I don't follow a ton of these defensive players that obviously will know at the next level, but it's cool to see somebody, whether or not the hype is justified, because we haven't seen them play so much. I didn't watch a lot of Nolan Smith tape this season, to be frank, but it's really cool to see somebody like make themselves a lot of money. It's actually
Yeah.
pretty insane. That guy probably made himself millions of dollars by showing out today. And it's kind of sad when did you see that guy Andre Carter from
Uh-uh.
Army? He like his measurements were sad. He's like a defensive end, and like he has tiny arms. And it's like oh no, Andre Carter might have lost himself somebody. So there's always
There's always
great
the other
stories
side
from
of
the
it.
combine, but there's always the
Yep.
other side of it. Recording here on Thursday evening, the main stars, the main cast of characters, they haven't ran their 40-yard dash yet. They haven't ran their shuttle drills. We don't know how they're going to perform. We don't know how they're going to test. We don't even know Bryce Young's weight, Keegan. I mean, come
Or
on. We're
height.
hanging. We don't know his height or weight. We don't know if Anthony Richardson's going to clock in at 4.3, 4.4, 40-yard dash. We don't know yet about that, but we're going to take our best guess. But we're here to give you our 2023 NFL Draft preview. First episode today, what do we have on the docket? Quarterbacks. Over the coming weeks, we're going to talk running backs, we're going to talk wide receivers. Quarterback's the most important position in all of football. And as we're beginning to become like dynasty nerds, as we're beginning to do best ball, as we're beginning to prep for 2023 summer drafts, it's really important for us to understand who these prospects are, what did they do in college, what kind of questions they may have, what kind of player comps they look like, what teams could they fit well on before they actually end up on those teams, because it can really change your perception of who that prospect is, right? Because of a landing spot. So I think it's really good for us to sit down, talk about these players, give our, highly expert opinion here on these quarterbacks.
Tape bros. We're
Keegan,
tape bros now.
Keegan and I somehow, some way got access to some All 22. So for all of you that don't know, All 22 is just how people scout the NFL, how they scout college players, and us in our untrained eye are just kind of giving it our best example to follow these guys. And we're here today to rank our top 4 quarterbacks in the 2023 draft. Now, honorable mention to some other guys like Hendon Hooker, who's recovering from a torn ACL. I don't think that was a real NFL offense, and I don't think he's an NFL quarterback, and he's like 25 years old. So Hendon had a great season, but if you watch Tennessee, they basically like ran their whole entire offense super spread out with wide receivers on the outside hashes, which you can't even do in the NFL. So honorable mention to Hendon Hooker. Tanner McKee, I don't know. He's a tall motherfucker. I'm roasting those tall guys again, but I'm not going to talk about Tanner McKee. Any other like honorable mentions? Yeah,
Stetson Bennett is going to be in the draft.
your favorite player, Stetson Bennett.
Yeah.
No Stetson talk here on the episode. Stetson's going to be a hell of a backup quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys.
Today we're here for the core four, Sean. Today we're here for the core four. We're going to talk about Stroud. We're going to talk about Young. We're going to talk about Levis. We're going to talk about Anthony Richardson in today's episode.
Yes. So Keegan, I thought it'd be fun. I have my top four, and I have it ranked in order. You have your top four ranked in your order. I don't know your list. You don't know mine. So I think it'd be fun. Let's dive right in. So, Keegan, you have the number one pick in the NFL draft. You just traded up to get it, right? Because the Bears, obviously, well, they have running back Justin Fields, but they don't need a quarterback right now. But the Bears aren't going to take a quarterback. You say you're the number two, the Texans, right? The Bears take Jalen Carter. Number two, you're on the clock. Who are you taking?
I think the first quarterback off the board in my mind should be CJ Stroud.
Whoa. Okay. So CJ Stroud is a 2-year starter and a football throwing robot, right? From Ohio State. This guy really had some of the most historically impressive and accurate seasons in college football history in terms of the production that he had. And a lot of people are not like you. They don't have CJ Stroud ranked as their number one quarterback. So my question for you, Keegan, is what do you see in CJ that others don't? And a second follow-up question to that, is CJ Stroud just too boring? And that's why no one wants to talk about him and pump his stock up? The guy has no social media. He's very humble, very quiet guy, not outspoken. He just kind of goes out there and is just a football throwing robot. I mean, he puts the ball exactly where he wants it. But outside of that, Keegan, what do you see on the tape? Because it doesn't look very boring to me.
Yeah, it's definitely not boring. I think if you're looking for a quarterback who can execute an offense at a very high level, like CJ Stroud is your guy. I mean, throughout all the games that I'm watching on his tape, and first off, they play really good opponents. Obviously he's got some good schedule, so it's not like he's playing against poor competition. He's playing against potential and future NFLers, but he's got really good ball placement. He can make all the throws that you ask him to, off balance, on the run, play action. He can throw from the pocket. He is actually really, really good in the pocket, just has great footwork. He's really good about adjusting his feet to settle back into a throw, kind of looking to push the ball downfield. He does a lot of the things that make him look like a next level quarterback. His caliber of play is so high for a younger guy, a college kid. It's really impressive when you watch. And I know he's surrounded by a really talented supporting cast. And that's where people tend to kind of pick him apart. It's well, of course. I mean, he's throwing to Marvin Harrison Jr. He's throwing to Chris Olave. He's throwing to Garrett Wilson. He's throwing to Jackson Smith and Jigba. I don't want to take anything away from him, though, just because he has talent around him. What he does with the football and as a quarterback is really, really impressive to me. It's hard not to watch his performance and looking at the Notre Dame game for 2022. It's just he's going through his reads really quickly. He's super athletic and he can navigate the pocket. He knows when pressure is coming, can make every throw that you want him to make. Like I mentioned, it's you said it, he's a robot. He's almost so refined. It doesn't look like he's having to do anything too hard, but I think he's also making the position look easier than it is too. And that speaks a lot to his talent.
You said a lot of great stuff, and something that I want to backtrack on a little bit was you were talking about CJ Stroud's ball placement. So are you familiar with what a big time throw is from PFF? You familiar with that stat?
Yes.
For our listeners, a big time throw is a pass with excellent ball location and timing, generally thrown further down the field and or into a tighter window. CJ Stroud, 7% of his throws last season were big time throws, by far and away the most of the core four that we have here. Pretty impressive stuff from Stroud. And I think one of the big knocks on him, and you mentioned it, something that I have a little I wouldn't say super hesitant, but something that makes me really try and be a little skeptical about CJ Stroud a little bit is the fact that I think he was playing on easy mode to an extent because he's so talented and Ryan Day's scheme is so good. And they schemed him up so well. They kept moving the pocket. They used him to his strengths. And he was throwing to the likes of Marvin Harrison Jr., Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson, Jackson Smith and Jigba. like future NFL stars and current NFL stars. I don't want to knock him though, because he played with good talent and a good scheme.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't like, and he dominated within that scheme. And the minute things got really hard for him, college football playoff against Georgia, he put together some of the best tape that I've ever seen a quarterback have at that level.
Watching everything like from these core 4 quarterbacks, it's probably the best whole complete game I watched. Bryce Young has a couple games that are close to it, but like that was the best complete game that I watched of this core 4. It was really, really impressive. And that's against a defense that's going to field 10 future NFLers, you know?
Yes. He put on an absolute show in the college football playoff, almost threw for 4 touchdowns, over 300 yards. He probably beats Georgia if Marvin Harrison doesn't go down in I think the third quarter in that game.
Mm-hmm.
But I think what's so impressive from that tape is that CJ Stroud's comp heading into the college football playoffs and for most of this year was like a supercharged Jared Goff. Like, no disrespect, like strong arm.
I know what you mean by
good
that.
In the pocket, like the best version of Jared Goff. Because he really wasn't mobile. CJ Stroud in that college football playoff against Georgia, just freaky athleticism in the pocket, breaking tackles, extending, keeping his eyes downfield. A lot of the stuff that makes Bryce Young such a magician and my favorite prospect and my number one prospect in this draft. CJ Stroud had that on full display against the best defense in college football. And if CJ Stroud, if his tape looks more like that, like in the NFL, because my thing is that he is not going to face the amount of pressures that he faced in college. He faced only 99 pressures this year, by far and away the least amount of all these core 4. Bryce Young, on less dropbacks, faced like 60 more pressures. So he wasn't really under duress. But in that game, he was constantly under duress, making defenders miss, creating out of structure, and just again, like we said, incredible ball placement. Maybe he's not operating in an NFL pocket a lot of the times. He's throwing into NFL windows. He is throwing into windows that only exist in the NFL, and he sees it and he rips it. And he's just got incredible arm talent.
Yeah, and you know, to marry all of that together, when I watched a lot of CJ Stroud today in the past couple of days, what I noticed the most is, and Bryce Young does this really well too, but eyes always up, always up, and they're so good in the pocket, both of these guys. And CJ Stroud is like very elusive in the pocket, but not looking to run, like not looking to abandon the play. Like his eyes are always up, both hands on the ball, like navigating the pocket, avoiding pressure, and like he's going through all of his reads simultaneously. It's just like super impressive to watch him do that. And especially in Georgia or against Georgia on that tape, it really stands out because like we said, that's a future defense of all NFLers potentially, you know, like down the line of everybody they played in that game might have potential NFL time. It's like he's going against future really good talent and eyes up, avoiding pressure, making huge throws after another. It was really, really impressive. But he's like a robot. It's like almost too clean in a way, which is weird. But that's what a lot of people are kind of giving him knocks for. It's like, how do you properly judge a guy who arguably, not even arguably, like without a doubt, has the best talent around him, supporting cast, offensive line, wide receivers, tight ends, like everything. He's got the best of it, of this core 4.
It honestly felt kind of unfair to watch him, who's so like, he's such a talented player, operate in such like an easy scheme. Like they really built a phenomenal scheme around him and put him next to all world talent. And it's very similar to Justin Fields. Justin Fields was surrounded by incredible talent in that same offense, making magic happen. And Justin came into the league, clearly has shown signs of improvement, clearly has shown us what his potential is, but he's kind of been mishandled by the Chicago Bears. Sorry, Hayden, it is, but they have not really laid an incredible infrastructure around Justin, and it's made it really difficult for him. And I think for CJ to succeed, he's, I think, pretty dependent on where he lands. Even that sounds funny, like football throwing robot that can put the ball literally anywhere, has a rocket arm, he can be creative when he needs to be. But I think he's really contingent on where he lands.
Yeah, you want a good supporting cast for him. You want a really good head coach. I do think he's somebody who could step in and maybe start day one, just like talent-wise. And he's not like so much of a project as Levis and Richardson are, but he needs a good supporting cast as well too, because it will be a shell shock, to go from elite surrounding talent to like holes in your roster. When you are drafted that high in the NFL draft, it's probably to a team who is rebuilding and probably has some work to do with them. So I think it'll definitely matter where he lands, like you said. Outside of Jared Goff, who's somebody that you could comp CJ Stroud to that's currently in the NFL?
I was seeing a lot of Justin Herbert, and I know that sounds crazy, but in that Georgia game, it looked like Herbert, dude. Like, it looked... I don't know if he has the javelin arm that Herbert has, where he can throw a strawberry through a battleship, but it's pretty damn close, dude. Like, it was crazy to see him, like, scramble. It really looked like Justin Herbert. Like, that... I also saw a little bit of, like, skinny Ben Roethlisberger, like, better passer Ben Roethlisberger. I kind of was getting those vibes a little bit, too, in terms of, like, how he operated in the pocket, but I really see, like, Herbert. And I think Jared Goff still is a fair comp. And he's kind of a mix of all of that. If his scrambling ability is real and it translates to the next level, I get why you have him as your number one prospect. I just, again, one game, I want to see it a little bit more before I say that it's in his bag.
Yeah, he kind of feels like the most complete out of all of this to me, because he's going to have good measurables where Bryce will fall in that. Like, he'll have a good height, he'll have a good weight, he has a good frame, and he does all the things you want out of a future quarterback for your franchise. So he's got
Stroud
a lot going for him.
Stroud might be slow, though. He might come out and be slow on the 40, and I don't. It is what it is. But I mean, like, that could be Stroud's knock. And
that's fair. That's fair. If that's his one knock, I still think that's pretty good, because he's damn elusive in that pocket.
Yeah. In terms of where he lands the next level, I really like the Lions, potentially. We mentioned Jared Goff. We know that Jared Goff is crushing it in this offense. The Lions have the 6th pick in the draft. I think he could do wonders behind that offensive line, throwing to Amon-Ra St. Brown, throwing to Jameson Williams. I think that would be a match made in heaven if CJ Stroud was at 6 and the Lions took him. I think something that makes a lot more sense and probably will happen is the Carolina Panthers. I think put him in kind of an up-and-coming offense. They have DJ Moore. They drafted a tackle at the top of the draft last year. They got a lot of good play out of their offensive line, and Frank Reich is now their head coach. He's kind of a stylistic fit with Frank Reich, in my opinion.
They'll have a good run game to mesh with him to take the load off of him, like kind of get the run game going. And, DJ Moore is obviously really good, but there's an up-and-coming Terrace Marshall on that roster as well, too.
Sure.
It's like there is some framework around for him to be kind of successful in that environment and a good head coach to match with that. The Lions would be really interesting for CJ Stroud, because sitting for CJ Stroud, I think, would only make him, that much better. And obviously that's the thought process with everybody, right? But even him, who's, I think, ready to start on day one of the NFL season in 2023, sitting behind a guy like Jared Goff and like being part of like a new team culture that's really pushing things forward and has like a positive aura around them would be amazing for his development. I like the Lions a lot. That would be great.
Is he too boring, Keegan?
I don't think he's too boring. I think we're just in that mode where it's like pre-draft and we have so much time in between Super Bowl and now that people just nitpick, looking for topics to talk about. Because I watched all of his highlights in the All-22 and I don't see what's wrong with this. This looks pretty good to me.
That Georgia tape was not boring. Wow. CJ Stroud. I cannot emphasize how impressive he was in that game. It was remarkable how well he played. And he made himself a lot of money on that game, probably. So good for CJ Stroud.
Yeah. He did. But yeah, I think CJ is definitely my number one, just after watching everything. But you have a different number one, and who I have at the second best quarterback in this class.
I mean, if you follow the Twitter account, RTM Fantasy, go do it if you haven't. If you follow us on TikTok, if you follow us on TikTok, if you follow us on TikTok at RTM Fantasy, we just hit 1,000 followers, by the way. Let's go. If you haven't done that, you'll know I'm a big Bryce Young guy. I am a huge fan of Bryce Young and what he does. And I just really like watching him play. And Keegan, before I do the whole spiel and I do my rant about Bryce, I just got to ask the question. Are you concerned about his size? Because I kind of feel like you're concerned about Bryce Young's size.
It's what's going to matter the most is I don't really care about his height so much as like I've seen success with quarterback, and he has like all the passing things that make me not give a shit about his height. It's like how big is he actually, like, and how big can he get? Like how much can he fill out his frame? There is legitimate concerns that he might not weigh in at 200 pounds and will be somewhere around 5'10", 5'11", like at 190. That is small.
Tiny.
That is like historically small.
That is tiny.
Yeah.
The list of notable quarterbacks drafted since 2000, 200 pounds or lighter, is Pat White, Kellen Moore, and Seneca Wallace.
Shit.
And none of those guys were top 100 picks. Like,
yeah,
it is truly unprecedented if he comes in and he's like 195 pounds. I think this man has been gorging himself. I think he gets himself over 200. That's my call. I think because again, you look at quarterbacks 6 feet or under. Like Mike Vick was 6 feet. Drew Brees, of course, is a great example. I don't know if Baker Mayfield was over 6 feet tall. Baker Mayfield.
No, that was a huge debate. Yeah, what was Baker going to measure in at a height? Like that was a really debated thing. And then obviously the Kyler height was a big ordeal.
Kyler broke it.
Kyler came in at like 205. Like he's stocky.
He's stocky. Kyler's clearly stocky. Where Bryce is really skinny. He's like Lamar Jackson skinny.
So tiny.
At Kyler Murray's height, like. You probably have friends that are as tall as Bryce Young that you kick it with. And now Bryce Young is supposed to be like an NFL quarterback. It is kind of insane. But then you turn on the tape, Keegan, and you watch him play. And this guy
it's incredible.
Is a magician. He had 2 full years of conducting a pro-style offense with Bill O'Brien in the Alabama Crimson Tide. This guy is that classic point guard style distributor. And he already operates like a seasoned vet. Like he sets protections. He holds onto the ball with 2 hands. He is clearly got a very good command and poise at such a young age. And on top of that, he's creative, slippery. He always keeps his eyes downfield. He's always looking for a big play. I mean, the guy makes full field reads at such a young age. And he's got a rocket of an arm. Like he can make pretty much every throw. Some of them are a little bit more difficult, but I think what's crazy is for how short he is, he can throw over the middle of the field. It's not an issue for him, say like Russell Wilson, who can't throw over the middle of the field because he's so short. Like, have you seen Bryce Young when he takes his drop back? He does like a pedal drop back. He doesn't do that standard like slide hitch. He goes back on 2 feet on his tippy toes, and he's legitimately on his tippy toes.
There are some throws from his tape that looks like he's like reaching over the offensive line to get the throws off. But you know what? The throws go where they need to go with Bryce Young. And you're right. Like when you watch Bryce Young, he does, him and CJ Stroud both do it well, but like eyes up all the time. But Bryce is going through reads like at lightning speed. And he checks so fast if he likes something or not. Like he's a very mature quarterback in terms of football IQ and how he processes things. And he plays in the SEC, like he plays for Bama. They play stiff competition. It's not like he has to go out there and process pretty heavily and has to like the LSU tape was really, really good. LSU was sending a lot of confusing looks against him, and he just reads it so well. I mean, it's really impressive.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting because you could have said last year the same thing we just said about CJ Stroud being like, cool, you play with all this NFL talent. Like Bryce Young was playing with guys that are like Brian Robinson was a starting NFL running back. John Mechie would have played if he wasn't sick. He was playing with Jamison Williams, who didn't play last year. But all these guys are going to contribute at the NFL level. He's playing with Jahmyr Gibbs too. And in 2021, before CJ Stroud had his Georgia tape, Bryce Young had his Georgia tape against the Bulldogs in the College Championship. And it was better. Like, I don't know if it was better, but dude, it's insane. His tape against Georgia.
It pops. I don't know if it's better, but it pops. It's like very like appealing to the eye.
Taking just massive risks downfield and just buckets. He's just getting buckets galore against Georgia, against a better defense than they were this year. I mean, like they're going to start like 7 dudes in the NFL on that defense for 2021. And Bryce Young just absolutely dissected them in like basically every phase of the field. And then you go into 2022, we all think of Alabama as this absolute powerhouse, but some of these receivers he's playing with are not that heralded. Jahmyr Gibbs was probably his best like receiving weapon as a running back. His offensive line was giving up a ton of pressures. And he walked in and he had a 5.7 big time throw rate, which was second to CJ Stroud, but with only a 2% turnover worthy play rate. CJ Stroud almost doubled that. So again, and CJ Stroud was still historically good, but Bryce Young, with a decreased amount of skill in his offense, was making it a little bit harder, still was making really difficult throws, was still operating under a ton of pressure. He faced almost 60 more pressures than CJ Stroud, and he just made it happen. And I think the tape that really illustrates for me is against the Texas Longhorns, right? That game where they're in Texas. Texas has got Alabama up against the wall. Like, it looks pretty bad for Bryce Young. Like, he's struggling. His receivers aren't helping him. A lot of drop passes. He gets pressured 17 times in that game. He gets only sacked twice. Guy is fearless, hangs in the pocket, creativity on full display, flip passes, scrambling, just makes it happen. He backpacks that squad and gives them a win against the Texas Longhorns in Texas Station, right? Where they play, where the Longhorns play?
DKR, they don't care.
DKR, fuck them. Where do they play? They in Austin, Texas, right? Horns down. I don't really know college football, as you can tell.
Yeah, no, we're going horns down on this pod. We're anti-UT on
horns
this
down,
pod.
baby.
Yeah,
Show up
we're
for the
big
camera.
Horns down.
So
gig 'em and horns down.
So like I remember watching that game live, just being like, wow, Bryce Young is that dude. Like,
he's a game changer. He does, and I feel like with CJ, how we were talking about, like, he has such a good supporting cast, and he did for 2 years. And Bryce, like, you got to see a lot of like what he was made of as a football player, because he loses some supporting cast talent, like loses the game breaking wide receivers that he had the year prior, and like still played out of his mind. Like, the talent is so obvious with Bryce Young, and he's trying to make plays happen constantly, going through 4 or 5 reads sometimes before finding a person. He's, for how much we talk about and leading up to the draft, how much we're talking about how small Bryce Young is, I think it's really important.
So small. He is so small.
But it's important that
tiny.
If you're going to watch some highlights, like, try and pay attention to what he's doing when pressure's collapsing on him and how often he's able to stay on his feet with people at his legs, grabbing on his jersey. Like, he is strong. Like, I don't know if it's his core or what he's got going on, but like, he's not like going down. He's really, really slippery. Like, you made a comp to CJ Stroud.
It's a smaller tackle it's harder to tackle him in a set. But when they line up and hit him, though, you're like, oh, he's going to die. Like, he's going to die.
But he does such a good job of staying up and avoiding pressure. I mean, he is really nifty in the pocket, and he's not looking to leave the pocket even, which is really impressive, because if you're small, obviously you don't want to take a big hit from a D end or like an unblocked corner, just like free safety blitz on you. Like, you don't want that, but he's hanging in the pocket constantly, like looking for his best pass option. Like, I don't doubt that he's an athlete and he's really, really fast, but he's looking for passing. Always looking for where his wide receivers are. It's really, really impressive.
Again, like, it sounds dumb, but like, just how CJ Stroud's biggest knock was like, well, can he do it when it's difficult? It's like Bryce Young's biggest knock is like, he's just so tiny. Like, if Bryce Young was even 6 feet tall, 205, 210 pounds, I don't even think it's a discussion that he's the first pick in the draft. I don't. And it sounds silly to think that we're knocking these guys like this, but it is pretty tiny. It is.
Yeah, there's no other way to put it. Like,
there's unprecedented, dude. It's like Doug Flutie. He's built like Doug Flutie.
Well, yeah,
he really is.
And he's projected to go in the top 3 for sure. And where he lands is going to be a huge difference. Like, let's say he goes to the Texans, Shaun. Like, what are your thoughts on that? Can they protect him? They actually have a pretty decent offensive line.
I think, unlike CJ Stroud, where I think he's dependent on where he lands, I think you can drop Bryce Young in any team. I really am that confident. Yeah, I think what makes me afraid about Bryce is not year 1, year 2, year 3. It's like, how long can he last in the NFL? Because I think he's going to be good right away. I really do. But again, like, how long is you're drafting this guy 1st overall, 2nd overall? You're pinning your franchise to him, right? You're a GM, you're a head coach. You're putting your job security, right? Your financial well-being on Bryce Young. And what does the future look like for somebody built like that? How do they hold up in the NFL? Now, I think the modern NFL is built for a guy like Bryce Young to succeed. It's the argument of why you should go with Kyler Murray. I think Bryce and Kyler are different players. Kyler is so predicated on beating teams with his running ability, where Bryce isn't. Bryce is a passer. He's a
pass
with
first
true
guy,
mobility. With true mobility, he's a mobile quarterback, but he is always looking to throw the ball. And it's not like backyard football where he has those breakdown plays like Kyler does. They're just different quarterbacks. Like my comp that I have for Bryce is skinny Russell Wilson, right? I'm getting PTSD seeing Bryce scanning with both hands on the ball, scanning downfield. I'm like, this dude is literally Russ when Russ used to torture me in my dreams. And I just see mobile Drew Brees. Like that's what I see it for him. So it's like when you ask me what team I think he could do well in, I think if they have smaller linemen, yeah, that'd be great. Just a little bit tinier. You might want to draft some guards that are a little bit shorter for Bryce. But I think realistically the Texans are a great spot for him. Come in, wash out the bad taste in your mouth from the Deshaun Watson experience. D'Amico Ryans is the truth. Build around Bryce. I think he'd be great on the Colts too. If the Colts traded up for one, drafted Bryce Young. I think Shane Steichen's experience with both Jalen Hurts and Justin Herbert is really cool. But Shane Steichen might be looking for a running offense. He might be looking to build a running offense around a certain mobile quarterback that isn't Bryce Young. Because you're not going to run the RPO with Bryce Young. You do not want to get this guy killed. Like you can let him scramble and do his thing, but I think the Texans make sense for Bryce, and I think it's time that we have the conversation.
Talk about the most tantalizing QB prospect in this class. Somebody that Shaun is maybe going to eventually move up to his number one quarterback if he keeps watching more of his tape. But yeah, let's talk about Anthony Richardson, Shaun. So Shaun has Anthony as his third quarterback, right?
I do.
On the list.
I have Richardson as my third quarterback. I really wanted to put him above Stroud, but I just couldn't. I couldn't do it. Like Stroud it's just like, come on, just everything with Anthony Richardson as it exists now is a projection, right? Like we see his good and his bad. His good, Utah, like looks like the best player in the country.
Really good. Good tape.
If you haven't seen the jump, pump fake, 360, 2-point conversion, absurd, right? You see him play against Tennessee where he's like kind of all over the place, but like has a couple like moving in the pocket, flicking the ball down. You're like, oh my goodness, this guy is ridiculous. And then you watch him play against Florida State where he throws 3 touchdowns in his first 7 passes and then finishes the game 9 for 27 actually with a 30% completion percentage. And then you watch the Kentucky tape, which is just a train wreck, right? So it is a high variance player, and like, I think I want to get a CT scan of like my brain watching Anthony Richardson highlights. It'd be like when they show people like, this is your brain on drugs, right? It's like, that's my brain on Anthony Richardson. I'm just dopamine, serotonin, like what's going on? I'm like almost going to have an ego death at this point. But like Richardson is all over the place. And I get a lot of shit on Twitter from friends, from strangers that are like, Richardson sucks. Look at his Kentucky tape. And people are shocked where I'm like, you're right. The Kentucky tape is god awful. I'm like, what? Like, what are you talking about? I'm like, now go watch Utah. Now go watch Tennessee. Well, like, I just watched Florida State. I saw this guy lose to USF. I get it. Richardson is high variance, up and down, all over the place. And you want to know why he's all over the place? Because the guy couldn't hit water if he fell out of a fucking boat. He is so inaccurate. He is a mess. His footwork is all over the place. His eyes... Again, I'm no expert. I've been watching a lot of JT O'Sullivan QB School. If you're a nerd, go watch it. It's on YouTube. But like he breaks it down and basically just says Richardson is like a really potentially special player who does some really cool stuff, but he has to work on the basic fundamentals. And that's if you see the tape. It's like you see why NFL teams are like, oh, this guy probably is going to run a 4.4 40. And he's going to weigh 240 pounds, and he's got a rocket missile arm, and he's big and he's strong. And guess what? He also breaks off 80-yard touchdown runs, and he has a freight train, and you can run QB power with him. So it's like in an age defined by mobile quarterbacks. We just watched what Jalen Hurts did. how do you not watch Anthony Richardson's tape and think, I could turn that guy into that, right? It's risky. It's insane, kind of. It's a projection, but the upside is undeniable with Richardson. Like, it just is. So that's where I land with him. I think also he's playing on a really bad offense. His skill position players are not bound for the NFL. The guy faced an absurd amount of pressures, like 150, and he had way less dropbacks than the likes of Bryce Young and CJ Stroud. I think my favorite stat for Anthony Richardson is his pressure to sack rate is 9%. Like, Bryce Young was really good and it was 14. Your guy Will Levis is like 30. Like, if a rusher's coming at Will's like, he sees it way too late, right? But like, Richardson was slippery, wouldn't go down, throw the ball away. Like, he's making the right reads. He's just a mess. Like, so like that was my.
Would you like to take a deep breath there, Shaun?
I'm gonna take a sip of water. That's my take on Richardson. Like, you told me Richardson's gonna bust out of the league. Like, okay, I wouldn't be shocked. If you told me this guy is gonna be on a Cam Newton level, I wouldn't be shocked. Like, that kind of high variance. And I know people are like, what the fuck does that even mean? You're like, okay, so he could be really good or really bad. Good analysis. But like, that's where I think this is going with Richardson. And I don't think he should be the number one pick in the draft, but you know, Shane Steichen and the Colts, if they like what they see, they like the interview, and they trade up for one, and they want to create the Eagles style rushing attack with Anthony Richardson and develop him as a passer, just like they developed Hurts. Am I going to blame him? No. So I guess I just gave away who I think he should go to. But that's where I'm at with Richardson. Why don't throw some water on me, hose me down, and why don't you tell us like some of the negative you're seeing with Richardson? Like, let's be real. Let's be realistic.
He's a project. He's a walking project, and I think even if you compare tapes between him and Levis in 2022, like their supporting cast is very similar, but like Levis 2021 supporting cast with Wandale and his offense was a lot better than what Richardson's are. So part of what I try to do when I'm watching is like remove myself from the fact that Richardson does not have a good supporting cast. Maybe even the worst of these guys on here. Will Levis is pretty bad in 2022, but it's hard to judge like his whole picture. But I will say he's extremely inaccurate and he misses a lot of throws, and he has elite arm talent and arm power, but he is not like elite in putting touch on the ball and like having finesse as a thrower. And that can be fixed, right? Like these are things that can be improved. But right now, when you watch it, it's like, God, he can throw the ball. Like he can throw it far, he can throw it hard, and he has the mobility and can kind of throw on the move. But his ball placement is just like all over the place.
The ball placement is bad. Like on screen passes, he's not putting it on the right shoulder.
It's
like
the little stuff
like
that, right? Like the quick outs, and he's throwing behind his wide receivers. It's like those are the things that you need to execute in the NFL that like will really hurt him. And I think some of the other negatives are his tendencies to stare down the side of the field that are being schemed up for his plays, like are really, really bad. Like there were some telegraphed interceptions that he threw that, you know, defenders are just like watching his head kind of the whole way. And like, those are things that can get taught, right? So that's why I say he's like a project. He has some crazy intangibles, and he's a legitimate like read option threat quarterback, which a lot of people love to run now in the NFL. And he is a beautiful runner, like not just like a good runner, like it's beautiful when he hits full stride, and watching him move, it's really, really impressive. So I think he has some things that make him a serious threat. But I think for Richardson, unlike Stroud or Bryce could start day one, I think he would benefit a ton from sitting behind somebody for a year.
I agree with Richardson sitting. I think what's important context too when you're comparing Richardson and Levis, Keegan, is Levis is like 24. He's going to be 25 years old, where Richardson's 22. He's only got 13 starts. 13.
Yeah.
Makes me think of Mitch Trubisky. Like, remember Trubisky only had 13 starts. But, like, that's what we're at with Richardson, where it's like he's a baby. Like, he has so much room to grow, and he's really barely played. So
Yeah.
again, that again makes you. Again, we drafted Trey Lance. Okay, so like the Niners drafted Trey Lance. It's part of the deal. It's these guys that you're going to take big swings on.
Yeah.
Right. And that I think that's the difference when you're keeping in mind with Richardson. He's really young. He's barely played. He's a little baby. Where like Levis is, two-year starter at Kentucky. He transferred from Penn State. He's been around the block, and I think it's time we could talk about Will Levis, Mr. Puts mayonnaise in his coffee.
Will the thrill.
Keegan's third best quarterback here in the draft. Will's caught a lot of shit through the pre-draft process. I was making jokes that he was going to go number 1 overall. That like he would have the Anthony Richardson meteoric rise. It's kind of funny that Richardson's having it because you knew somebody was going to rise up the board because everyone's going to have their complaints with Stroud and with Young because people are hilarious. But you knew someone was going to rise. I thought it was going to be Levis because Levis has all these intangibles, right? Like rah guy, fires up his teammates. He's banged up all year long, foot injury. He's a mess. He plays every single game. Like people love him. Locker room guy, a guy that is going to win over a coach and a GM in an interview. Like Levis has this kind of just like magnetic energy that people are attracted to, from my understanding, which is good. That's important. Now, is it really the most important thing? No, but it makes a difference, dude. Like again, are you somebody that people like to work with or bet their house on? But if you look at the tape in 2021, playing with Wando Robinson, playing with I think Fortner, their center, playing with guys who's going to play on Sundays, Levis looks awesome. Like he's kind of a mess in some instances, but like you see it. You're like, oh, this guy can play on Sundays. And then in 2022, he's banged up. His offensive line is not good. His skill position core is dreadful. He's kind of out there just kind of making stuff happen. I think something, too, you have to look at for 2021 is he's playing with Liam Cohen as his offensive coordinator who would jump and be an assistant coach with the Rams. So, like, he had an NFL-type coach with some NFL-type talent, and he thrived. And the minute that was taken away from him, he really struggled. So it's like, is he going to thrive if they give him better players and they put him in a good coaching scheme? Because he kind of does project like somebody who could play in like a Shanahan-style system. I watched a ton of Levis.
I did.
What are your thoughts on it?
I did. After about, 14 different Levis games. There's some obvious things. Like, we'll just start from 2021. Like, the first thing you see, like, when you start watching tape is, like, he has a natural zip on the ball. And all these top 4 guys all do. But, like, there is, like, something to be said for Levis's arm strength and that zip he can put on the ball. And he can release it fast. Some other quick things. He's got a good, like, body frame for a quarterback. And he uses that size to his advantage. Yes, like very big NFL frame, like will help him a lot in standing behind an offensive line, throwing over a line. It also helps him out a lot with the read option stuff too. This is another quarterback who's like really comfortable running in the read option offense. Like that's a lot of stuff they ran for Kentucky. And like as a runner, he's really good because he's big bodied. It's very Josh Allen-esque. He's a little risky sometimes with the running. It's like chaotic running. He is fighting for extra yards and he's always pushing the mound, like a good QB sneaker. Outside of like some of his physical talents, he's really good when he has time in the pocket. Like there is no doubt about that. If he has time to throw and like can place his feet correctly, he can throw a really nice ball. Wandale Robinson, by the way, wow. That guy just all over the field. Like watching 2021 highlights, I was like, dude, Wandale is a freak. They do run a lot of quick stuff though in Kentucky, so it's like getting the ball out, your first read,
Shanahan
screen
style.
plays.
McVay Shanahan offense. They're like running 3 wide receivers, tight end, 11 personnel, kind of quick game. So I think he'd be good in the NFL. Like, I'm keeping an open mind. I don't think this guy's going to be a game changer by any sense of the means, but like athletic, big arm. He throws a lot of hospital balls. I think I saw him almost kill like 3 of his wide receivers. Like he doesn't have this feel for it. It doesn't seem instinctual for him. It doesn't seem
he's a little similar to Richardson where it's like they have crazy arms, like talent, strength, can make a bunch of the throws, but like it's those placement throws that they're missing a little bit of. And like sailing the ball over your receiver's hands, or like you've got a receiver 10 yards in front of you who's wide open sitting on the goal line and you throw it so hard it flies off his fingertips. It's like there's little things about that, like in game situation that he can probably improve on. But overall, when I watch him, it's like He's definitely really comfortable as a runner when he needs to be. He's actually pretty shifty in the pocket, but he does hold on to the ball a little bit too much, especially in 2022 when his offensive line wasn't great. He's getting sacked
30%
a
sack
ton.
rate. Pressure to
And
sack rate. Yeah, it was brutal.
Yeah, it was really, really bad. I mean, if you watch like all of 2021, like I did, you're like, okay, like there are some good things about his game. Like he's got time in the pocket and he's really good when he does. You watch one of the first games of tape of 2022, and it's like Northern Illinois, and his O-line is getting wrecked against Northern Illinois. And this is a game that they would go on to win, and he still played pretty well, but he's dealing with a ton of pressure, and like he hangs in the pocket well, but also to a fault sometimes. And he can deliver a good ball under pressure, but like it's hard to judge after seeing how much his offensive line changed and how bad it was. And like you get to a game against like Georgia going back to 2021 against a really good D-line, and like he looks super shaky to start the game. And obviously that Georgia 2021 D-line was really good, but he just looks a little shaky. He's like a second effort guy, always wants to extend the play and like make something happen. I think there's a lot to like, but he's not as polished as a thrower as Stroud. He doesn't have maybe the same football mind as Bryce Young does.
No.
Levis he has really good arm talent. I think a funny comp for him, and by the way, not a scout, not a combine guy, but my funny comp for him is like he's a combination of Josh Allen and Zach Wilson, like somewhere married together in there.
You mean like he's like his ceiling is like bad Josh Allen and his floor is like good Zach Wilson.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, like that's kind of how he looks like, and that's kind of being a little harsh. Like I think he does a lot of things really well, and it's his arm that's going to impress people. And I think when GMs and scouts see it in person, they're going to be like, "Holy shit! Like he can really put some steam on this ball." But he, like Richardson, has a lot of things missing that Bryce and CJ Stroud already have. I don't know if he's like impactful day one starter, depending on the landing spot, but I think he could be a good quarterback in the NFL.
Okay. I've got my comp for Levis. It's not as good as he's a combination of bad Josh Allen and good Zach Wilson. I also have my comp for Anthony Richardson, which I saw somebody say he's like Donovan McNabb. He's like supercharged, super fast Donovan McNabb. Go watch some Donovan McNabb in the pocket. Like he's kind of big and stocky like Richardson. In terms of Levis, my comp for him, he's Ryan fucking Tannehill. He's Ryan Tannehill. Will Levis is just Ryan Tannehill. Like, and I mean that in the best possible way. Like, kind of athletic. Ryan Tannehill had no idea what he was doing as a converted wide receiver. Finally,
what do you mean, dude? Ryan Tannehill ended up being a good quarterback in college. Yeah. Well, not great quarterback, but you know what I mean.
Exactly. Like Tannehill was good, but like, would you say feel for the NFL game as a quarterback at first? Like, no, it took him for a while to figure it out. But his traits, like his athleticism, like good arm, like getting put in a good scheme that worked to his strengths, play action. Like I think Levis is going to be really good, like running play action in the NFL, which is like,
yes.
You're going to be pretty good as a quarterback if you can run play action in the NFL. Yep. So, like, I think a lot of people shitting on Levis is fair. Like, you're like, oh, another hyped up, charismatic white guy that's going to steal all the limelight. It's hilarious that Richardson's the one everyone's talking about now. But I think Levis is going to be able to, like, play in the NFL. I do. If Daniel Jones can do it, I think Will Levis could do it. I do, dude. Like, I really do. And you're the Levis guy, so where is your ideal landing spot for him?
I don't know. It kind of depends on where Stroud and Bryce Young end up falling, but I don't know what situation works the best for him on like these QB needy teams. Like Raiders is an option, but like that would indicate that he has to be a day one starter. And I don't love the idea of him having to start day one.
They could bring in Jimmy G. G. And
that situation would be completely different. But like a good run game team. So like I like that situation in the Raiders. You know, Panthers, I think, are a good option for all of these quarterbacks outside of maybe Richardson. But I think Panthers are a great landing spot for just about any of these quarterbacks, just like what they're building and what they've got going on over there.
I like the Colts too as landing spots. Again, I think that because we're talking about Ryan Tannehill, right, and who's Who does Ryan Tannehill thrive with? Our boy Arthur Smith.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
I think Levis could crush it if he was drafted by the Falcons. I think the Falcons are going to hold off and see what they have in Ritter and potentially tank for Caleb if it works out that way, or Drake May. But he would fit really well with the Falcons.
You know what's a team that we haven't brought up at all that's actually drafting in like a position where a quarterback could go is Seattle. Like, will Seattle take a swing on one of the top 4 guys and
Really
have
hope
them
it's
sit
not
behind
Richardson.
Geno?
Really hope it's not Richardson. Really hope that would be a bummer if the Seahawks took Richardson. But yeah, I think like they're an interesting call out. Do the Seahawks draft a quarterback is a question. Do the Lions draft a quarterback? The Falcons, not immediate needs, but
Yep, but like
future.
Yeah, to take a swing. Like, do they like one of these guys enough to like have them sit behind and knowing that they'll miss out potentially on that next crop of good quarterbacks that are coming next year? Will Levis, the Raiders actually might be a good fit. The more I think about it, you got Josh Jacobs, you got
McDaniels,
Josh McDaniels.
I think like we saw Jarrett Stidham played pretty decent in that offense. Like I think Will Levis could be pretty good. And I think the Raiders are drafting a quarterback. It seems that way, at least with the way they're positioning.
Yeah, I think Josh McDaniels wants a young guy to build around, like somebody he can kind of like grow his tenure with the Raiders with, like kind of in tangent, grow along, you know?
Levis works in Las Vegas. I think like if
he kind of looks like a Raider.
He kind of does. He kind of, and he can fire up the fan base. He could be fun. I think and that's not that bad of a situation to plop Levis in. They have Devontae.
Wow, he's Derek Carr with tattoos, huh?
Or can move. Yeah, he's Derek Carr who gave up on God. No, Levis is probably a Christian, but is Levis the lead singer of a Christian rock band? I'm not quite sure, but I think Levis in Las Vegas,
Viva Las Levis.
Okay, there we go. Trademark it. Let's get it on a t-shirt right now.
Viva Las Levis.
Yeah, there it is. I think Levis in Vegas makes sense. I like CJ Stroud with the Panthers. I like Bryce Young with the Texans. And I like Anthony Richardson with the Colts. If I could draw it up for the 4 teams that clearly need a QB, and then you have your wild cards, which is the Falcons. You have your wild cards, which is the Lions and the Seahawks. I think that's how that shakes out. I don't know how people are going to trade up and jockey, but I'm excited. I think this is a fun group of QBs. And 2 of them are just going to suck, right? So that's just how it always is. 2 of them are going to be terrible, and 2 of them are going to be really good. So it'll be curious to see which QBs are good. But I think it's fun that you keep an open mind, see the positives, see the negatives, and I think it'll be really fun to see where these guys land. And then for like fantasy football, it's going to be a blast.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, Bryce and CJ, I think, are like, if you want to talk fantasy for a quick second, those are the obvious like dynasty QBs that I'd probably go after, like for immediate return. And then I mean Richardson is tantalizing, right? But it's like
for the rushing ability alone. Because say Richardson comes in and they go with the Josh Allen approach, which is like, we know you're gonna suck. It's okay. We're gonna put decent guys around you, and we're gonna build you up and coach you right. They take that approach. And Richardson, if he does that approach and plays, he's just gonna run the ball a lot. Like Lamar in his first year. They're like, you're just going to run the ball, and then you'll figure it out and develop as a passer. So, like, I think the rushing upside of Richardson alone is crazy. I think some people have CJ Stroud ahead of Bryce Young in a lot of their rookie rankings because they just think Stroud's going to accumulate more stats, or he might end up in a better place.
Yeah.
I think Bryce Young is going to be excellent. The minute he steps on an NFL field, I think Bryce Young is going to be good. Like, no questions asked. It's how long is he good for?
Yeah, I don't really have anything negative to say about him. I mean, he's just like, it's hard not to like what you see when you watch his game. He's just a really tiny guy.
He's just really tiny. As dumb as that may sound, like, he's really tiny. CJ Stroud's just really boring. Anthony Richardson's just super inaccurate. And Will Levis is just way too old. Way too old to be not dominating. I feel like that's kind of like Will, come on, dude. But like, because Kenny Pickett got shit, and Kenny Pickett dominated, right? But I think Will Levis has like more pro style traits than Kenny Pickett. I'd say I think Levis is a better prospect than Pickett. And, that should tell you something.
Wow, I don't really think of that, honestly. Huh.
I think he is, because Pickett was like the 16th pick in the draft, and that was kind of a reach.
and they only took him because he was homegrown.
They took him because I think they liked him. And I think that's what it'll be like with Levis. Like, you know how you watch Pickett and you're like, I kind of like him. Like, he's just doing it, man. And then you look at his stats and he's like 180 yards and a pick, 2 picks and a touchdown, and they win because it's like Pickett willed him, you know? Like, I feel like Levis might be that kind of player where you just kind of gravitate and like him, but who knows if he's actually any good. And that's it. That's the quarterback primer. No Hendon Hooker talk. No Clayton Tune talk for our folks.
No Stetson Bennett talk.
No Stetsy. Well, that's a whole episode. Stetson Bennett. We just list all the players that are younger than Stetson Bennett. I think Hendon Hooker might be older than Bennett, by the way. But if you haven't yet, everybody go follow us: Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. Subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube. If you've made it this far, Keegan, tell the listeners they gotta go touch some grass. Go hug a loved one. Enjoy your weekends. Tweet us, text us if you have our numbers about Bryce Young's weigh-in. It's gonna be like, where were you moment? It's like, where were you where were you? When
okay, before we go, I have a prediction. He's gonna come in and they're gonna weigh him, and he's gonna be about 5'10" and a half, and he'll probably be like 202. So it won't look suspect. It'll be like 202.
That'll be huge for him. That's a huge win if he comes in at 5'10", 200.
I don't think he will.
That sounds as dumb as that sounds. Imagine just being like, he weighs 199, so I can't do it. But you look at this historical precedent, like, it's tough. It's tough with Young. Okay, so that's your bet is 202, 5'10" and a half. I think he comes in at 5'10". Wait, I have no idea where he's going to land.
Who knows? But we will talk about that.
You know the Popeyes meme of like the exhausted worker? That's got to be like Bryce Young's nutritionist. Gotta be just drained.
Verbal meme, I like that. That's good.
Yeah. All right, Keegan, man. This was a great time. And listeners, we'll see you soon. For running backs, receivers, we'll figure out what we're doing.
It'll be surprised.
See everybody. Yeah. Until next time.